All right, today we're going to talk about the autobiographical box, or child memory box, I like to call it. It's going to be a simple box that has 4 sides to it. They're going to tell a story about you, about your childhood. And then we're going to do with also in the box is going to have images of you as a small child on the inside. And that'll be something we add at the end of the project. What this really is like a little homage to your childhood is what we're doing here. And each side, like I said, tells a story. So think of each panel of this box as a story about something from your childhood. You can just stick images on there like these show, but each one should have special significance to you and should kind of tell a story to a viewer. If I can't kind of identify what you're trying to say, it's not really going to work. And the biggest thing about this project at all, which I probably already talked to you about, is no words. I do allow words on the top of the box if you want to put like a little saying or something like that. So now let me go through the process of how to build it. Today we're going to talk about really quick how to use a slab roller. We have had the slab roller before. This is the first time we're going to use on the box project. What you do is you want to flatten your clay out before putting it to the slab roller. On the other side over here of the slab roller, we have it set up where it sets at 1 centimeter. I then flatten my clay out. I put it between 2 pieces of canvas. I put as close as I can to the front. I put it on there and I begin to push it through and I turn the wheel, and very easily it should go right through the wheel to the other side. And then when I pull it out, I have my nice slab of clay ready to cut out my squares. First thing you do before you cut anything out, you definitely want to go over it with your rubber rib, kind of smooth out or smooth the surface of what you're going to be cutting. That way if you have any wrinkles or creases, you're going to be all good there with that. You don't want to have any of those wrinkles and stuff like that on your piece. I do it on both sides, so I'm going to flip it over very carefully. Let's see, there's those wrinkles. I don't want those on my slab at all. Now we got the surface all nice and smooth. We're now going to use this template here to begin to cut out the squares of what we need to have. I should be able to add about 5 pounds of clay, which you're going to need for this project. I should be able to get 6 sides out of this using this template. This template is 5 by 5 by 5. So all I do is I need my needle tool, the square that's over there, and I begin to cut them out. Now what I'm going to do is I want to use as much of the slab as I possibly can to cut them out with. So I put it right up on the edge, and I'm just going to go around and trace my piece and get all the sides done. They can touch, because that doesn't matter. But I got 5 of them out. Let me give it a few seconds, roll one more slab out. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut 45-degree angles on all these pieces as well. And I have these 45-degree tools located in the back of the room that you can use. And you're also gonna need a wear board to store your pieces on. They can touch. You can pile them on top of each other, and that is fine. And then you're gonna wrap them up and wait a day, and then assemble your box. Because right now the slabs are really flimsy, and that's not a good time to build with slabs. You want to let them stiffen up a bit. Some of you are going to freak out tomorrow when you pull them out after cutting them all out. You're like, they're really hard. Well, you want them to be stiff. This is called stiff slab building, which is different from soft slab building. Stiff slab building is where you can build geometric shapes like triangles, squares, and stuff like that. And we're going to do that. So let me go ahead and get this process started here. All you're going to do is you're going to take the tool right on the edge and cut 45-degree angles on each side of your box. And take your extra clay, put it off to the side, and have your 45s. Let's put it gently onto the board. I don't flip it, I don't do anything special, but it needs to have a 45 on every single side. If it doesn't, it's hard to assemble your box. Try to keep your lines as even as you possibly can. That is for sure. If it's a little bit off, it's okay. We can fill some of that stuff back in later when we're cutting everything out. Today we're going to talk about how to finish assembling the box. So we let it sit for a day. Now we're going to talk about assembling it. It's been wrapped up in a bag on a board for a good day, like you guys are doing. I'm going to pull it on out, and we're going to begin to assemble the box. If you notice from yesterday, they're a little bit firmer than they were before. They're not as flimsy, and that is what we want. We want to build a box so it's nice, ready to go. board I no longer need. And now I'm going to begin to assemble my box. So the first thing we do is we take our first two sides, score it, then I'm going to put them together like that. Now, a slip is a good thing you want to use to do that. Usually what I actually honestly do, I start with 3. Score that. So there's that and that. Now I'm going to apply some slip and join these together. The reason why I do 3 at a time, it's good for balance for the piece. You can make sure you make a somewhat square box as best you can. Don't worry about the outside seams right now. We'll be able to fix those up. You're going to be a lot of cleaning of this piece as we're going along when building it. But what it looks like on the inside is something like this. That's what it should look like. What we got to do is, along these seams here, we've got to fill them in with some clay. That's what we have to do. And if we don't fill them in, the box could crack and fall apart. So we're going to take small, tiny coils of clay and fill them in there. So what you're going to do is you're going to take some extra clay you have, and I'm going to roll some small coils. Before I even start rolling them, I'm going to kind of squeeze them out in my hands, make the clay extremely small. Make sure you have a wet spot where you're rolling that clay out as well. If you have to, you can spray a little water on your table. And you're good to go. Now I'm talking very tiny coils. You cannot build with these, is for filling in seams. Now what I do is I'm going to begin to blend these seams in. What I do is I spray some water on my coil, and I begin to fill in the seams. By just taking my finger and the wetness of the clay that's already there, I can kind of smooth them in the seams and make sure they're nice and even. So now I got one more piece to add to make my hollow cube. So here it is. This you really can't add the coils into because it's right on the top. So you're not going to be able to do that. So what you have to do is, you have to remember this is your top, so when you cut it off, you can fill in those places later. So I score it, apply a little slip, take it, press it on down, really blend. What I do before I go any further, so don't forget, I put a little T. I can brush that out later. That way I just know it's my top. But now the next thing I do, as example here shows you, is the ledge. You gotta cut the lid off and build a ledge for it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure 1 inch on all 4 sides of my box. So what I'm gonna do is, I kind of find my ruler, find 1 inch, and that's how big my lid's gonna be. And I'm gonna come around here and draw 1 inch lines all the way around it. Draw lines like this. Make sure they match up and equal all the way around. Once we have the lid drawn around here, with the needle tool, we're going to use this felling knife to cut it off. We don't saw back and forth. We just use it and follow the line and just drag it straight across. Careful around the corners. That's probably where the clay is, if it's going to crack on you, more than likely going to crack and break. Pull the lid off, and that's where I have it all nice and cut off. One thing I'm going to do before I go any further, I'm going to make sure I'm also going to mark it here so I know how it goes back together. Now if you look on the inside here, this is where I've cut everything off, all that. I have everything there, but I got to fill in here on that part there, the little seams before I go any further. So I take my extra coils I have here, I'm going to spray a little water into my clay, and I'm going to add these coils right into the seam. now to build a ledge, I'm going to take my ruler and measure the inside height now. So I find what the height is. For this one, it's going to be 1/2 inch. What I do now is like we did before, I take my slab here of clay, put it to the edge of the table, so I get myself a straight line to go from. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not saying it has to be like a perfectly straight line, but it should be somewhat good, or well, of a line there. That gives me an edge to kind of go from with my piece. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I do the same thing with that straight line, and I go this way. So it gives me a nice straight edge to get that slab from I need. Remember, it's not huge, it's only 3/4 of an inch tall. I just take my needle tool, find 3/4, mark it on there. Now I have my little strip. Put the slide for now if I need some more. And now I'm going to put it in my piece. Now, the one thing I can do now is, like, if you remember the red cylinder was round, you just put it around the circle. Well, this one, you can't really do that because it's square. So I got to find the inside roughly. The measurement is going to be from the inside. So I can find the inside spot there. So it's going to be 3, and it looks like 1/4 inches tall width on that one. So I just make 3 3/4. Then what I do is I just score and slip it in, bottom edge. Add some slip, really only need to add slip to that part there. Compress it down in there really well. Again, use my stick, compress that seam. Also do the same thing on the top. And then if I did everything correctly, might be a little bit of a snug fit, but clay is still malleable enough. Line up my lines. And compress it down in there like that. Now, when you're done with this part here and you have your ledge in there and everything's smooth, you're then going to take it and you're going to begin to figure out your design ideas and what you're going to put on it, like this one shows here. And then make an interesting handle that goes along with your theme of your idea, and all that stuff as well is what you're trying to figure out.